Christmas is right around the corner, and so too a visit from Father Christmas, also known in different times and places as St. Nicholas, Kris Kringle, or good old Santa Claus, a central figure in the Christmas festivities and a legendary character in cartoons and animation. In fact, unless you're watching an animated rendition of A Christmas Carol, any cartoon Christmas special almost feels incomplete without Santa. If we were to go back and review every appearance Santa ever made in Saturday morning cartoons, we'd be here until next Christmas. So instead, why don't we take a look back at the first time Santa ever appeared on our screens in animated form. And while we're traveling through time looking for him, we'll also head back to the Stone Age to understand better Santa's role in bringing the Christmas cheer to prehistoric Bedrock. If you're watching this video with young children, now is the time to cover their ears. Santa Claus has his origins in Western Christian folklore and traditions, and can be traced back to figures like St. Nicholas, the patron saint of children, as well as Father Christmas and Kris Kringle, the Christ child. The American poem A Visit from St. Nicholas was published in 1823 and has been highly influential in shaping the modern image of Santa Claus as a jolly, portly man who flies from house to house in his sleigh pulled by 8 reindeer, which the poem names, as Santa delivers presents to children and adults on Christmas Eve. American illustrator Thomas Nast has been credited with creating the modern image of Santa through his 19th century illustrations, while depictions of Santa Claus were popularized further through Haddon Sundblom's depictions of him for the Coca-Cola Company's Christmas advertising in the 1930s, which have spawned urban legends that Santa Claus was invented by the Coca-Cola Company, or that Santa wears red and white because they are the colors used to promote the soft drink brand. In actual fact, Coca-Cola was not the first soft drink company to utilize the modern image of Santa Claus in its advertising, and Santa had appeared dressed in red and white and essentially in his current form on several covers of Puck magazine in the first few years of the 20th century. In film, Santa Claus has appeared on screen since as early as the late 19th century, with the earliest example being an 1897 short film called Santa Claus Filling Stockings, which has since been lost, and then another one released a year later, simply titled Santa Claus. The first time Santa Claus ever appeared on our screens in animated form was in a Disney short entitled Santa's Workshop, directed by Wilfred Jackson and first released on December 10, 1932, as part of the Silly Symphony series. Walt Disney produced 75 animated short cartoons in the Silly Symphony series during a 10-year period beginning in 1929. The series was an opportunity for Disney to experiment with different characters and stories, introduce new techniques like 3-strip Technicolor, and in general train its staff in preparation for the first feature-length animated feature film. And indeed, some of Walt's top animators worked on this cartoon. Columbia Pictures had been distributing the Silly Symphony series to movie theaters, but in 1932, Disney moved to United Artists, and the expanded budget in the new contract allowed Disney to use Technicolor as well as high-fidelity RCA sound, which they did for the first time in Santa's Workshop. The short opens at Santa's Workshop in a distant land on the night before Christmas, as Santa's elves sing about how happy but busy they are as they clean Santa's sleigh in preparation for the big excursion that night. In his workshop, Santa Claus reads through each letter sent from every boy and girl around the world asking for toys, as Santa's little helpers hurry to finish the toys, which then come to life and march into Santa's bag before he embarks on his journey around the globe. None of the voice actors are credited in the short, although records online show 2 different actors, Alan Watson and Walter Geiger, as voicing Santa. The voice of Santa's secretary was provided by Pinto Colvik, who was the original voice of the Disney characters Goofy and Pluto, as well as Bozo the Clown and Bluto in Popeye, while Walt Disney himself voiced Santa's second helper in another uncredited role. There's not much of a plot to Santa's Workshop, just a series of progressive scenes of how Santa prepares for his big night, but the viewer is treated to delightful musical numbers and rhyming dialogues throughout the short, while Disney's higher budget around this time allowed them to bring in a number of experienced illustrators and animators to provide vivid sequences with multitudes of characters that bustle with activity and movement. Santa himself is an endearing, jolly old man with an infectious laughter, and this image of Santa would be used by Disney for years to come. Less than 1 month later, on January 7, 1933, a strange time to release a Christmas episode, Warner Brothers released their first Merry Melody short of that year, entitled The Shanty Where Santa Claus Lives, which would be the next time an animated Santa Claus appeared. Directed by Rudolph Ising, The Shanty Where Santa Claus Lives was unusually grim for a Merry Melody short and a lot more bleak compared to the Disney cartoon released the month before. The short takes place at a shanty town during the Great Depression and centers around a sad and lonely young orphan boy who is made even sadder after returning home to find his Christmas stocking empty of presents. He is soon visited by Santa passing by his home, and since the boy had been good that year, he is able to join Santa on his sleigh ride, which is pulled by only 2 reindeer. It seems the depression hit Santa too. The two travel back to the North Pole, where the boy gets to play with all the toys Santa has in his workshop. At one point, the young boy even saves the day after a Christmas tree catches fire, which is extinguished by the young child to the cheers of everyone present as the cartoon ends. The Shanty Where Santa Claus Lives entered the public domain in 1962, but remained one of the few Merry Melodies and Looney Tunes Christmas-themed cartoons until the 1970s. As you can see, the backgrounds and illustrations pale in comparison to what Disney were doing at the time, but one thing that could be said about this cartoon is that, in contrast to the main child character, a lot of effort was put into Santa's pleasant, jolly demeanor that children had grown to love by that point. Due to the huge success of Santa's Workshop, Disney released a sequel 1 year later, on December 10, 1933. Entitled The Night Before Christmas, also directed by Disney animator Wilfred Jackson and starring the same iteration of Santa seen in the previous short. The Night Before Christmas was a loose adaptation of the famous Christmas poem, A Visit by St. Nicholas, and shows St. Nick, or Santa, delivering the toys that he made in the Santa's Workshop cartoon to a house full of sleeping children. The toys come alive and dance around and have fun before the kids awake to find a beautiful Christmas tree laden with toys for each of them. A few short lines from the famous poem at the beginning and end of the cartoon are sung by Kenny Baker to the original music of Lee Harline. This cartoon would be featured every Christmas on the Mickey Mouse Club, and footage from the short film was used for the Disney Sing-Along Songs volume, Very Merry Christmas Songs. Memorable appearances of Santa appeared in the Flintstones, the first being in the Season 5 episode Christmas Flintstone, which debuted on Christmas Day, 1964. The episode sees Fred Flintstone filling in for Santa Claus, who is sick, a plot reused in the Flintstones' second Christmas episode, the 1977 special, A Flintstone Christmas. What's interesting is that Santa appears in the 1977 special dressed in his traditional attire, rather than a Stone Age outfit like the rest of the Flintstones characters. A reason for this could be that the animators wanted him to be more recognizable, but further explanations were provided alongside Santa's appearance in a 1961 Flintstones comic strip which depicted Santa as a time traveler who seems to transcend the nature of time. In this comic strip, Santa predicts the arrival of Jesus and introduces the notion of Christmas to the inhabitants of Bedrock, in case you ever wondered why the Flintstones and their friends celebrated Christmas during the Stone Age. That's it for today, just a short history of the animated Santa in time for Christmas. Let me know in the comments if next year you'd like to see a more complete history of all of Santa's appearances in cartoons and animation. Offhand, I can't think of a character who has made more appearances in animated form than Santa Claus. It's a lot to research, but I'm happy to do it. And in the meantime, maybe you can help me out by mentioning in the comments your particular favorite appearances of his. I'll be back again in the new year, so until then, a very Merry Christmas from Santa and myself. Stay safe during the silly season and stay tuned for more cartoon history.